past albums you've created has been a lot of introspective stuff going on. It always is, and even on this album. But this one seems like there's a lot more people, a lot more names in the liner notes on this album than we've seen in the past.
There are, and that was something I did on purpose for the sake of learning, for the sake of growing. I think that, you know, I'm 22 and I'm making my 4th album, and this is the time where you could choose to continue to do things the way that you've always done them.
Which has worked.
Which has worked, but I mean, I think sometimes people mistake success as an opportunity to coast. For this album, I just thought, I'm so curious about my heroes and what they're like in the studio and how they come up with the ideas they come up with. I wanted to push myself.
You started it with "We Are Never, Ever, 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 Ever," and forgive me for having fun with that title. I'm sure I'm not the only one. Yes, I mean
that's why we created the longest title of all time.
Why was that the perfect song to launch with?
I think for me, I wanted to prove to people that we were doing something different, even though when you hear that song, you wonder, it makes you wonder, like, what's the rest of the record sound like?
Right.
And I wanted people to wonder about that.
You're a lyric girl. You've always
Yes.
said you're a lyric girl. What do you hear in your head when these poems are being written, or do you leave that completely up to whoever you're working with in the studio?
Well, I actually hear it a certain way when I write it, and I just want to reflect that on the album. I want the album and each individual song to sound the way it felt to feel that emotion. You know, when you have a really chaotic, out of control emotion you're dealing with, I want that to sound out of control.
As far as I'm concerned, you're just another picture to burn.
With all of the adoration and all of the success, there has been criticism. How much does that affect you, what you do creatively?
Creatively, it sometimes fuels it. There was a song called Mean that I wrote about criticism, and you know, there's no greater feeling than the feeling I felt standing on stage winning 2 Grammys for that song.
And all you're ever gonna be is mean. Why you gotta be so mean?
I'm not the kind of person who can't take criticism.
So much of your life has been played out in the songs since you were a teenager, now 22 years old. We've followed the entire growth of Taylor Swift emotionally, the emotional growth of Taylor Swift. That's interesting in a piece of art form, but you mentioned the gossip side too. Other stuff gets out in other ways. Would you rather people just listen to the songs? If you want to find out what's going on in your life, just turn on the record.
Of course, and my fans know that. You know, I think we've developed such a trust over the years that they know I'm going to tell them the truth about everything I've been feeling. And so I just feel like letting them in from that perspective and having that we share together, it's like I kind of trust that they have my back on that stuff.
So take my hand and drag me head first, fearless.
The American spirit is to take an entertainer, whether it's an athlete or whatever, root them all the way up to the top, and then suddenly paint a bullseye on them.
That's a good observation.
And what is that like to see that flip of the switch? It's got to be weird to be on that side of it.
Well, I mean, I think that in every story you've got like your things that scare you, your kind of storybook villain type things, and for me, it's like, you know, the people that are waiting for me to trip up.
Right.
That's the storybook villain for me.
Don't be afraid, we'll make it out of this mess. It's a love story, baby, just say yes.
You want to have someone, whether it's a fan or a critic, say, I get Taylor Swift. I get it. I get what she was trying to do. Is that the goal?
Yeah, I mean, I want these songs to fit into people's lives, because I write music
They fit into yours.
Yeah, I write music for those moments where people are so either devastated by the loss of a relationship or excited about the start of a new one or reflecting back on what they've learned, and maybe they'll turn my song on at that point. That's the hope.